Alright, we've got quite the special treat today. We have a race with the 2014 touring cars, specifically the Citroën, around Macau. Both of these are not released yet, but I was given the opportunity to race them early, and so we're going to take that opportunity to do a really fun race around Macau. The first time I ever drove around this track was in these cars in this game just yesterday. So I'm still not super great at Macau, but I've already fallen in love with the track, and these cars feel amazing. And I will talk about that a little bit more afterwards. But for now, let's get to the main event. Let's get to our race. So I'm starting pretty far back. I'm only ahead of one car, but I am in the Citroën. But we'll see what we can do. There's a couple overtaking spots around here. Not a very good start for me. Not a very good start at all. But we do have really good overtaking opportunity coming up into turn, I guess it's technically turn 3. This little kink right here is normally flat out, but with this many cars trying to get through, go ahead and downshift and brake a little bit. Here's where I should be able to take a couple cars shifting down for this. Looks like I might be able to get 2 here. Oh, nope, just 1. Thompson was able to squeak ahead on the outside there. Now at Macau we have this fantastic quick section here. Again, with all of these cars trying to pile in, it becomes a little tricky. Because there's a lot of cars trying to occupy very little space. It's a very, very tight track. But it's a fantastic little track. And unfortunately, one of the main reasons I'm starting back so far is I just tried to push a little too hard. Got myself in trouble in qualifying. Which is very easy to do around here. That turn in particular is very tricky because when you're braking, you're actually putting opposite lock in the car. You want the car to go to the left, but because of the way that the course turns, or I should say the way the pavement is cambered, you actually, oops, looks like there's a little bit of a hold up here. Let's try and sneak around. There we go. Got itself all sorted. But anyway, as the road cambers away, you have to actually turn back to the right and then do your braking, and then turn it back to the left. Now in RaceRoom in particular, this corner is not a permanent yellow like it would be in an actual race, but it effectively becomes a big old log jam the first couple of times through. This is something that could be addressed at some point in the future, but it's such a tight turn that it's going to be, without cheesing it and altering the way the corner actually is, it would be pretty tricky to get the AI to work 100% correctly through there. But that's something that can come with patches down the line. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. Just a little niggling thing. But again, as I said, after about 2 laps, like the first lap, it's a big old traffic jam, as expected. Even on the real track, it would be a big old traffic jam. But by the second lap, it's pretty well cleared up, because you've got big old gaps in where everybody is. It's going to be iffy. Oh, he's going to leave me just enough room. Gotta have to brake a little bit to keep it off the wall. Oh, that is sketchy in there. But anyway, by the 3rd lap, it's not even an issue anymore. Started braking a little bit early, because I was unsure of my car and my braking point. But now I should be able to showcase how quick this overhead section really is. And it's very, very tight. Oh, car got a little sideways on me under braking. But we gathered it in relatively easily with only a minor tap on the wall. So no really appreciable damage. It's just one of those courses that begs you to go faster and faster, and then bites you really hard with a really solid guardrail the instant you go that little bit too quick. And here's that corner I was talking about where you steer back to the right under braking, and then cut it back to the left. It's a really fun corner. The first couple times, it will really frustrate you. But once you sort of figure out how it's meant to be done, it becomes a fantastic little corner. Oh, went a little too hot into that one. You really want to be back on the gas as you crest that little bump in that corner. And this one, you've got a tight hairpin for an even tighter hairpin. This one will probably stretch some people's ideas of having enough lock on their car. I have to go all the way over my wheel more than once. Again, I have my wheel at 900 degrees, so if you have your wheel at a smaller rotation angle, then you will likely be able to get around there a little easier. That being said, if I cranked up my steering lock number, which I believe I have at 28, if I cranked that up to about 32, I could probably get around there with just once over at about 180 or 270 degrees of my overall rotation. But that being said, it's still, because of the way the car comes back to you coming out of the corner, it's not really that big of an issue having to turn the wheel that much either, because you just sort of let the wheel pull itself back to straight and then come out of the corner. Took my braking down to my normal point there that time. Overall, I do have to say these cars feel absolutely wonderful. A lot of people will be, I guess I would approach it in this way. If you're familiar with the 2013 cars, they feel much more like what you would expect a front-wheel drive car to feel like. The 2013 cars were more, really they were just a lot looser everywhere. Like every time you stepped on the throttle, it pretty much wanted to turn itself sideways, and especially if you went into a corner with too much speed. That being said, these cars still definitely have the traditional things that you would expect, like braking really wants to turn the car sideways, and they definitely still have lift-off oversteer. One of the most appreciable differences that you will find, though, is that they do not have just the constant oversteer everywhere like the previous 2013 cars did. And it just makes them feel so much more alive, so much more drivable, and so much more like what you expect a front-wheel drive car to actually be like. And similarly, because of the way that they feel, you also have the situation where it makes it much more predictable to drive these cars than their 2013 counterparts. But also with the more, I guess I would say the more realistic feeling of the front-wheel drive interpretation in these 2014 cars, you also get a really interesting sensation when the front wheels slip. So when you lose grip from the front wheels, in the 2013 cars, the first inclination of the car would be to oversteer. In these, the first inclination, when the front wheels alone slip, is actually to dive into understeer, which is more what you would expect with a front-wheel drive car, especially under power down. So if you accelerate out of a corner, but the front tires just don't have any grip in them, previously you would get a little sense of it in the 2013 cars, where you sort of wouldn't have very much control. But in these 2014 cars, you really lose all sense of steering whatsoever. which is exactly how it should be. And again, this is only when the front wheels are not gripping and you've got your foot hard into it. So basically, when your front wheels are just trying their hardest to give you all their power, but they just don't have the grip left in them. As you've seen here, it's very, very easy to turn these cars around, though. My whole plan was to make this better than the first race, but it's looking like it's going to turn out just about the same. Now that I know the track better, I still push just as hard. On the fortunate side, if you spin, it's very hard for other cars to get around you. So you don't really lose positions all that easily. But again, I'm not making any positions either, which is very detrimental. But again, most of this is just to really try and explain just how friggin' good these cars feel. And again, Macau is in that also, because it's one of the pieces of content that is also upcoming, and it feels just wonderful. But to the cars for a second, the only car I have used at this point is the Citroen. So that's the only one I really have any true experience with. When these come out, I do plan on using all of them, obviously, because they all look fantastic and are tons of fun in the 2013 pack, so I assume it's no different here. But either way, they just feel so solid, and they feel so correct this time. Again, the 2013 cars didn't feel... They never felt bad or wrong. They just felt that little bit off. They didn't quite feel as tight as they should. And it never looked like you were driving a touring car similar to how you saw the touring cars going around the tracks in real life. Conversely, these 2014 cars just feel exactly how they're supposed to. They feel exactly how they look, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if you watch the 2014 races for the World Touring Car Championship, and then you race these cars, the way they feel on track is how they look on the broadcasts, which is one of the big keys for somebody like me, because that's my experience with these. I'm never going to get the chance to actually go and drive one. So my whole experience in how I want them to feel is based off of realism, obviously. And RaceRoom has partnered for many years now with the World Touring Car Series. So they have a lot of data from many of the teams there. Actual raw racing data and testing data and whatnot that they can actually dip into to make sure that they get the realism factor right. But at the same time, as you can see, I am in the Citroen, and I am not just blasting away from every other car by like 3 seconds a lap. So they have also done a fantastic job in terms of the balance of power, as RaceRoom tends to do. I think the GTR2 set of cars is a great testament to that, where the cars all feel very unique and interesting, but at the same time, they all end up about the same time frames around a lap. So if anybody was concerned about that, that is definitely not a concern this time around. I just keep pushing a little too hard in a couple of places. I'm just going to cut that car off. So basically it comes down to the fact that the 2014 cars they just feel fun. They're good to drive, they feel solid, they're tons of fun, and they're very predictable in how they control, and that makes them even more fun than their 2013 counterparts. I can't express how fun they are. They're just so fun to drive. Even while I'm spinning and losing positions, I still have a smile on my face from these cars, which I think says it all about the cars themselves. That's gonna be another loose bit. I just keep entering these corners too fast. So again, that's sort of how most cars drive, and that's how you'd expect if you enter a corner too fast. It should spin like that. Okay, so in the little bit of time I have left in this race, let me talk about Macau for a little bit. This track I have zero experience with, so I can't compare it to anything else. However, it more than lives up to all of the previous content that RaceRoom has put out. It's right up there. It's right up to standard. It's got the same level of passion and correctness in it. Again, I have seen cars go around Macau. I'm just not familiar with the track at all, but it looks correct. It looks amazing. It feels... One of the best things is, as with most RaceRoom tracks, it feels amazing. You actually feel the surface. You feel all those little bumps. Not only do you see the bumps with the car bumping up and down, but you actually get to feel them through the force feedback and feel all those little curves, well, not curves, all those little bumps in the actual road surface that just make it that much more unique. And so it becomes just an instant favorite of mine. Again, I have almost no experience with Macau, and yet I was able to learn it very quickly, which, that's just, I tend to do that anyway. But beyond that, everything is done in just the standard RaceRoom way, where it's just a higher level of quality than what some of the other titles give you. Oh, my tires are a little bit frayed, so I can't quite turn at the same speed as I could earlier. But again, the track itself is just fantastic. You get all of the realism that you could ever want, but you also get some nice vibrant colors from it. Everything isn't dulled for the sake of realism. You still get, effectively, you get Macau with a nice fresh coat of paint instead of the actual Macau that may have 6 years on some of the different paint surfaces. So it's just cars that feel great, a track that feels great. And it combines to be an amazing sequence. I was expecting to do better than last race, ended up doing almost as bad. But again, one of the best things I can say is even finishing 20th and spinning a bunch of times, I still have a smile on my face, and I still absolutely love these cars and love this track. It's definitely fantastic, and that's about the best thing I can say about it. So I would say thank you very much for watching, and if you think this looks interesting at all, then by all means go and try RaceRoom. It's absolutely free to try, and the prices on their content are very reasonable considering the intense quality that they put into all of this. So thank you guys very much for stopping by, and I will see you all later. Alright, now we're going to take a quick look at the 5 different lighting formats that we have for Macau. We'll start here with the sunrise lighting. As you can see, it's fairly dark. Shadows are still really long. We have a sort of purplish haze in the background, but overall quite a neat effect. Next, we will look into the morning time frame. Obviously longer shadows, but you're also working with slightly more light. You get more of a bluish hint to the light as it is still in the morning time. But you can also make out everything a little bit better, and it looks a little more crisp. Both of these offer very neat looks out of it. Now we move into the noon time, which most people will be very familiar with this. This is the brightest that the lighting model gets, and it also looks quite nice, I think. You can really see everything in clear detail, and you can see all of the sides of the buildings. All of the shadows are quite short, so it really shows off the detail in the track surface itself. It really lets you see a lot of the intricacies in it. Next we move into the afternoon light. If I recall correctly, this is what the race was run at, was in the afternoon light. That may be incorrect. Hopefully it's actually correct. So shadows get a little bit longer, but all in all, it's very similar to noon, just with longer shadows. And finally we move into the sunset. You get longer shadows, that nice deep golden hour glow on everything. And all around, I think this is probably my favorite version of the lighting for Macau, but all 5 of them look great. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of that so you could see what all of these lighting modes look like. So once again, I just want to say thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later.